Okay. Are we ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Anything we need to discuss before we get started?
Not from my end.
No, Your Honor.
All right. You may continue, Attorney Goldsmith.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Gilstead, would you agree with me as a surveyor that in order to locate the layout of a private way within the Highlands, such as Elmwood Ave, evidence you would consider would be deed calls in the record title?
The deed calls would refer to the lot numbers on the Highlands. Therefore, you would have to take the whole Highlands plan and the roads, the private roads, in consideration.
Okay. And in order, a surveyor such as yourself, in order to locate a private way such as Elmwood Ave within the Highlands, would also rely on monuments discovered in your field work, correct?
Objection.
Yes.
That's the objection.
To what extent that question didn't actually ask what the purpose of the reliance was.
Overruled. You can answer.
Yes, you would find monuments to cover, to put the plan on the ground or do a comparison.
And would you agree with me, Mr. Gilstead, as a surveyor, that another piece of evidence that you would rely on to locate a private street in the Highlands, such as Elmwood Ave, would be the Highlands plan or plans themselves?
That would be, the process would be to do the research to acquire the plans and any plans that are relevant.
My question was, are the Highlands plans themselves evidence that a surveyor such as yourself would use to locate a right-of-way such as Elmwood Ave in the Highlands?
I wouldn't necessarily locate, the right of way. By default, I'd locate individual lots that the sideline of the right of way or private way would be depicted.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gilstead. Your Honor, I have no more questions.
Okay, redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor. You can bring up Exhibit 72, or pardon me, Exhibit 81. That was I believe it was 81, the overlay that was marked today.
It was.
Just for a moment.
Okay.
Thank you. If we can scroll in a bit further south. Thank you. Mr. Gilstead, do you see the document in front of you?
Yes.
And Attorney Goldsmith asked you about some monuments on the side of Elmwood Avenue. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
And do you know who set those bounds?
No.
Are you able to, do you believe those bounds constitute the eastern boundary of Elmwood Avenue?
Well, with all the work we did and the discrepancy we have, I would try to investigate where they came from, trying to find out who said them. But we didn't, you would have to carry this survey further east.
Sure. So let's take a look at the overlay map in front of me, right? So the Elmwood Avenue would be situated to the east of the pink font, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And so this, I think with this, the pink overlay, you used the term CAD earlier, right?
Yes.
What is CAD?
It's a computer drafting program that surveyors use and a lot of people use.
So you plug in data that it.
I know what CAD is, if you're
Sorry.
concerned about that.
No, thank you, Your Honor. But this overlay shows a discrepancy between the Highlands plan and the Silva plan, right?
Yes, it does.
Is that, and how would you agree that it seems like there's not enough land in the ground to match up with the Highlands plan?
Objection.
Sustained.
What do you think the disconnect is between the Silva plan and the overlay?
Objection.
What's the objection?
I think the question is incomprehensible.
Overruled.
So, Mr. Gilstad, let me ask that question again. What do you think the discrepancy is between the Silva plan and your overlay onto the Silva plan?
Discrepancy in the monumentation, discrepancy. We never concluded, there's definitely a discrepancy as far as between Maple Ave and Elmwood. There's not enough property to depict what I show in pink there.
And so when you say not enough property, do I understand that to mean you're saying there's not enough property on the Silva plan to match up with your depiction?
That's what, that's conclusion, when you overlay the way I have it, there's not enough property. Yeah, there's overlap of the Highlands plans.
And so speaking of the word conclusion, based on this overlay and your other work associated with this area, do you create any conclusions about the Silva site plan?
Objection.
The conclusion
Hold
that.
on. Yeah, what's the objection?
Objection is Mr. Orr asked these questions on direct and certain answers were given and stand. This is not an opportunity to re-go over things that maybe he wants different answers on.
Are you, wait. You saying this beyond the scope of your cross?
Yes.
Thank you. That's a good objection. Sustained.
If we can pull up Exhibit 72. Mr. Gilstad, do you see the document in front of you?
Yes,
And you talked about this with Attorney Goldsmith, right?
correct.
You guys were talking in part about the eastern boundary of the Seidman Fusion property, right?
Yes, we did.
Do you see in the top left corner, paragraph number 2?
Yes,
Can you read that aloud?
this site plan is based on record boundary line agreements and an existing traveled dirt road.
Thank you. And that existing travel dirt road on the plan in front of you, that is identified as Elmwood Avenue, right?
The traveled way within
Right.
of Elmwood Avenue, the dirt road.
And why did you not strike that? Why do you not have any further detail about the eastern boundary of the Seidman Fusion property?
Because this was not to show any property lines, it's just to show a site plan for the building department.
Okay. And then if we can just pull up the disclosure for a brief moment, I believe that was marked as Exhibit C. Or pardon me, for identification as Exhibit C. And page number 4, there's a certain section that you discussed with Attorney Goldsmith, right about 5 stars on page number 4. Actually, before we get to that, let's go to, I think you guys discussed exhibit number 2. And in reaching your assessment in this matter, you've reviewed all of the documents and information identified in this table 2, right?
Could you clarify that?
All of the different records and documents identified here in numbered paragraphs, you've read those before, right?
Yes. Yes, I have.
And in conjunction with your work in this matter, you reviewed those documents, right?
Yes.
And you relied on them, right?
Yes.
Up to page number 4. And right above the 5 stars, there was a paragraph you discussed with Attorney Goldsmith. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And that exhibit 3 corresponded to the overlay that we discussed a few minutes ago.
Yes,
Right.
it is.
So the overlay that you created, you relied on everything in exhibit number 2 before creating that document, correct?
Could you repeat that again?
Sure. So in exhibit 2, it laid out all different documents in a table format, right? You know, plans and certain recorded documents. Do you feel, and then you also created the overlay, right?
Yes.
And that overlay is consistent with your review of all those documents, right?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Objection,
It's the objection.
leading question of his own witness.
Yeah, that was leading. It's redirect. I'll let it go but stop leading, please.
Understood, Your Honor. But no further questions.
Okay. Attorney Iannuzzi, any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Nunnally, any redirect?
Your Honor, we're in alignment with the questions from Attorney Orr.
Okay. Recross,
No, Your
Attorney
Honor.
Goldsmith. What?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gilstead.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Call your next witness, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Defendants Barbara Seidman and Kimberly Fusen called Nick Rystrom.
Your Honor, can we have a sidebar on this?
Sure.
We'll be taking a 5-minute break in light of sidebar. And then we'll come right back and start with the testimony of Nick Rystrom.
So where's Mr. Rystrom? Is he here? Oh, there you are. I'm sorry. I apologize. All right, Mr. Rystrom, you're going to be sworn.
Mr. Rystrom, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Just state your name, please.
Nicholas J. Rystrom.
Mr. Rystrom, are you alone in the room?
I am, yes.
Okay. And you have materials related to this case in front of you?
I do not.
Okay, very good. You may proceed, Attorney Moore.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Mr. Rystrom, what is your current occupation?
I am head of the engineering department for the city of Revere.
And what does that position entail?
So among other things, it includes a review of all development that is ongoing in the city, public, private, large, small, and then also review of any engineering related documents.
So that first part, you said that you review developments, whether they're large or small. In that scenario, what type of documents do you review?
So it includes site plans, existing condition site plans, as-built site plans, proposed site plans, details related to construction, that type of thing.
And approximately how many? Okay, and then the second part of your testimony was you review engineering documents. Was that correct?
That's right.
And what types of documents do you review in that capacity?
So design documents related to utility design, site construction details, survey plans, anything that would be related to construction, both private and public.
And for approximately how long have you worked as the head of the engineering department for the city of Revere?
11 years. We started in 2011.
And has your scope of responsibilities remained consistent throughout that time?
Generally speaking, yep.
Prior to 2011, who did you work for?
Immediately before that was a company by the name of Bay State Design. It was an architecture and engineering firm.
And for approximately how long did you work at Bay State Design?
5 years.
And what was the scope of your employment at Bay State Design?
I was the civil engineer that we had on staff. So I dealt with design of the civil end of design of the projects that we executed. And that included coordination with contractors, consultants, design consultants, survey consultants, that sort of thing.
So, and before 2005, where did you work?
I worked at another small engineering company by the name of GCG Associates.
And for approximately how long did you work there?
About 5 years.
What did you do there?
I was a staff engineer, so I did design for subdivisions, also in some cases small, 1 and 2 lot developments, and then I also did field work, which included soil testing and water testing, and then also land survey.
Before GCG, where did you work?
I didn't. I was in school at the time before that.
And what school was that?
Tufts University.
What program were you enrolled in?
The civil engineering, College of Civil Engineering.
Was that undergrad?
Yes.
Do you have any professional licenses?
Yes, I'm a registered professional engineer in the state of Massachusetts.
When did you obtain that license?
2013.
Have you ever visited Elmwood Avenue on Martha's Vineyard?
Physically, no.
What you just mentioned physically, what do you mean by that?
I've seen a video.
Yeah, so we're gonna show you what's been marked as Exhibit 10A. Have you seen this document before?
Yes, I have.
What do you understand that document to be?
It's a plan that was produced for the Egan property by Mr. Silva.
And have you reviewed this document before?
Yes.
Excuse me. From an engineer's perspective, do you see any issues with this plan?
So there's issues.
Objection.
Yeah. I need you to lay a basis for this. I'm not sure. Once we go to sidebar, now I hear the question.
Sure.
Let's go to sidebar. All right, Attorney Orr, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. If we can bring back up that exhibit. Mr. Rice, do you see the document on the screen before you?
I do, yep.
So have you seen similar types of documents in the course of your employment as the head of the engineering department in the city of Revere?
I have, yep.
So when you look at this type of a document, what are certain factors you look for?
Objection.
Specify the question as to the layout, the roadway layout. Is that what
Yes.
we're here for?
Yes, Your Honor. So, Mr. Rice, we're referring you to Elmwood Avenue as laid out on this site plan. When you see a similar type of layout, or I mean, when you have seen a similar type of layout in other documents, what factors do you consider as an engineer?
So as far as the layout of the road goes, I consider dimensioning of the road and then also monumentation related to the layout of the road. The other things too is, depending on where we're talking about other site features that may or may not come into play.
What other types of site features are you referencing?
Like fences, for example, or stone walls, things of that nature.
What does that typically mean to you?
So historically, fences, walls, things like that, they may or may not designate property line, historical property lines.
Objection.
Sustained,
Move to strike.
motion allowed. That's a surveying question, Attorney Orr.
Understood, Your Honor. So, Mr. Rice, in looking at this exhibit 10A, and you see Elmwood Avenue as laid out, if this was submitted to you in your capacity as the head engineer for the city of Revere, you approve of it?
Objection.
Sustained.
So, Mr. Rice, when site plans are submitted to you, such as the one before you, how do you focus in on, the layouts?
Yes, I do.
How so?
Objection.
It's in,
No, overruled. I'll let that one find out.
so they look at how what is depicted on the plan relates to the information that it was based on.
And so when you say, or what do you mean by what it's based on?
So for a plan, for a layout plan, you can't just start from, nowhere. You have to have some monumentation, some other existing information to then build your plan from. So you have to have some reference points to start with. So we look to see what those reference points are and how reliable or accurate they are.
In reviewing this exhibit 10A, did you review any reference points that gave rise to this plan?
I looked at the plans that were referenced.
No, I'll let him answer that and then we'll see where it goes. Go ahead.
I looked at the plans that were referenced on this plan.
So if we can scroll to the bottom left-hand corner. Do you see a paragraph or a block that's entitled Plan References?
Yes.
Can you read those aloud?
Plan Book 6, page 10, Land Court number 21234A, Oak Bluffs Case File 154.
In your testimony a few moments, strike that. Did you review those documents?
Yes.
Thank you. If we can scroll out. So did your review of those documents help strike that? After reviewing those documents, did you form any opinion regarding the layout of Elmwood Avenue?
Objection.
I'm going to hear the opinion, Attorney Goldsmith, and you will have an opportunity to move to strike.
Very well.
Yes, after review of those, the references, the layout of Elmwood was brought into question.
I'll move to strike that answer, Your Honor.
I'm going to let it go one more question, which is how it was brought into question, and then renew your motion. Okay,
Very well.
you can ask the question, Attorney Lawrence. He's your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. What opinion did you form?
So the references to the Highland plan, and the Highland plan doesn't, when you look at it, doesn't match up with this one. There are discrepancies between the two.
I'll move to strike that answer, Your Honor.
Yeah, that's a surveying question again. Let's go to sidebar. We're going to take another short break, Mr. Rystrom, so just hang on.
Okay.
Okay, Attorney Orr.
Thank you, Your Honor. A few questions that won't be overly cumbersome.
Okay,
If we can bring up Exhibit 10A, please. Mr. Rystrom, do you see the stone wall situated in the middle of Elmwood Avenue on 10A before you?
Yes,
In your capacity as an engineer, do you typically find stone walls in the layouts of roads?
no,
Right next to that stone wall, do you see a utility pole?
yes,
In your capacity as an engineer, do you typically see utility poles in the middle of a layout?
Objection.
overruled.
in the middle, no,
And you would, are you describing that in the middle?
not exactly in the middle, close to the middle, I guess.
And if we can scroll up. Do you see a utility pole further north or further up on this document?
Yes,
Based on the document before you, are you able to determine whether that utility pole is situated within the layout of Elmwood Avenue?
no,
And if we can scroll down a bit. Do you, and scroll in towards the bottom, please. Thank you. Do you see the term utility pole at the bottom of your screen?
yes,
Based on the document before you, are you able to determine whether that utility pole is within the layout of Elmwood Avenue?
not definitively, no,
On the right-hand side, do you see the term existing fence?
yes,
Does that appear to be within the layout of Elmwood Avenue?
Objection.
I'll allow it as an introductory question to the real question. Unless, if that's the only question, I'm not aware.
I hear you, Your Honor. It's going somewhere.
All right. Go ahead.
based on this plan, it appears to be.
So let's scroll up a little bit, please. Back to that stone wall. Mr. Rystrom, if someone submitted to you an as-built plan with a stone wall in the middle of a layout, would you approve that?
Objection.
Sustained.
Mr. Rystrom, in your capacity as an engineer, if you see a stone wall situated in the layout of a plan, do you require any further action for the entity that submitted the plan?
Objection.
Yes,
Overruled. Wait for me to rule in the objections, Mr. Rystrom. But your
Sorry.
hands. Go ahead.
What would you typically require?
further documentation, clarifying the location of the wall.
Why would you need further documentation?
Objection.
Overruled.
So I would look for, I would ask for further information about the location of the wall, the accuracy of the location as it's shown on the given plan.
Is it a problem as an engineer to see a stone wall within the layout on a plan?
Objection.
Sustained.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Attorney Goldsmith?
Yes, one question. Mr. Rystrom, from an engineering perspective, layouts of private ways are important, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
And they're important to provide for future development, growth, utilities, and various things, right?
Yes.
And layouts of private rights of way, in your experience, from an engineering perspective, differ from traveled ways within those layouts, right?
Sometimes.
Thank you, Mr. Rystrom. No more questions, Your Honor.
Okay, so I apologize, Attorney Iannuzzi and Mr. Nunnally. I forgot to ask if you had any questions for Mr. Rystrom.
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Nunnally?
No questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Any recross, Attorney?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Rystrom. You're free to go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney Orr,
That's our last witness, Your Honor.
you rest.
We do.
Attorney Iannuzzi, do you rest?
Arrest, Your Honor.
Mr. Nunnally, do you rest?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So here's the process going forward. Ms. Bateman will prepare the transcript, file it with the court, give you notice, at which point we'll schedule the deadline for post-trial briefs, which will be, the default is 30 days. Now you can tell me if you think you need less time or more time, we can talk about that. But then after the post-trial briefs are filed, we'd come back here on Zoom for closing arguments. Then I would take it under advisement and write a decision. So is the 30 days for post-trial briefs work for you? Suppose I should ask how long, Deborah, you anticipate the transcript to take? I won't hold you to it.
Right now, I am told that it is due by the 5th of April.
5th of April?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So once we get it, I would schedule it then for filing roughly 5th of May or so. And then we would have my calendar, there it is, excuse me. I could set it all up now with it changing if for some reason the, that date doesn't work. But I could set dates now if that would help you all.
Your Honor, I'll speak on behalf of defendants Barbara and Kim respectively. I don't think that we would need 30 days for the post-trial brief. I think it could be 2 weeks even. I think some of the issues are, I think Attorney Goldsmith and I might differ on what some of the issues are. I think we both agree that some of them are pretty discreet. And to the extent possible, I think a 2 week time frame would be more than sufficient.
All right. Well, I'll ask Attorney Goldsmith.
Yeah, Your Honor, I don't think so. I have a Superior Court session out here April 1 and 5 town meetings. And so if the transcript's going to be turned around, as Ms. Bateman says, the May 5th date, I'd be fine with, Your Honor, but
Okay.
just scheduling other matters, it's going to be too quickly.
All right, oh my goodness. So I'm just looking at my schedule here. So I think we'll call it, May 6th. And the closing arguments will be on May 16th at 9:30. Because I'm on trial for most of May, so that's when oh, wait,
I think that case settled, Your Honor, at 9:30. I have it on.
I'm sorry?
I think the case on May 16th you have is on my calendar too at 9:30, and that's.
Well, that's settled.
Yes.
That's settled, but I realized I'm moving another case to the 16th. But, so I think it would be the 20th. All right, you know what? This depends on the trial date I'm moving, whether it's the 16th or 20th, and I don't know yet. So I will, once I know that, I will set the dates for the closing arguments. Okay? But let's make the post-trial briefs due May 9th.
I can do either the 16th or the 20th now, Your
Okay.
Honor, just in case, if that helps Mr. War.
I can be available for either one.
All right. So I'll have to see what happens with the trial date. Okay. All right.
Your Honor, if I may, for the, whatever that date turns out to be for closing arguments,
Yes,
would you anticipate those being virtual or in person?
I would say virtual because I'm going to give a little leeway to Attorney Goldsmith. It's a long way. Since we did the trial virtually, it's fine.
Sure. Thank you.
So,
When pardon me, Your Honor,
yeah, no, go ahead.
when were the post-trial briefs, the 9th or the 6th?
9th. I gave you a few more days.
Thank you.
Though I don't know, maybe that's not a favor to you since it's over the weekend, but
Thank you.
okay. So, so let me just say this. I think you know, it was the information you put in the exhibits and the testimony is definitely enough for me to make a decision. But I want to remind everyone, I don't know if I've given this talk to everyone in this case. If I have, it was a while ago. Cases like this are not binary. There's not an either or outcome necessarily. Maybe there is sometimes, and there can be, but there's a lot of room for how I decide this. And so there could be an outcome where Ms. Egan is entirely happy and the defendants are entirely unhappy. There can be one where the defendants are entirely happy and Ms. Egan is entirely unhappy. There can be an outcome where everyone's happy and there can be an outcome where nobody's happy. The one outcome that you won't get from me, you will not get from me, is one where everybody's happy, right? And there is a good chance that I will decide something that makes everybody unhappy. I've seen the road, I've heard the evidence. You know, everyone has something to gain in this case, but everyone has something to lose as well, even from the status quo. So it's a long way of saying that if you want an outcome that everyone can live with or be happy with, you have to agree about that among yourselves. And it's not too late. In fact, hopefully hearing all this evidence has helped everyone have a better sense of what the evidence is, what the issues are, and what's at stake. So I'm not going to tell you how you should reach an agreement. or what I think is the right outcome. That's not my role. It's very improper for me to even speculate on that. But what I can do is urge you all to try again to see if you can reach an agreement. And if you do, then the case is over. And it doesn't matter how long it takes. If you know, you file the briefs and I hear the argument and I'm writing my decision and I'm about to sign it and I get an email that says you've settled it, I'll be as happy as you are. It's fine. Okay? And it's never too late to reach an agreement. There's a poem by Bertolt Brecht I have on my wall. Everything changes, in which he says you can make a new start with your last breath. You can settle this case at any time. You can reach an agreement at any time. And all of you and your clients, and then the Nunnallys, they all have houses there on this street. So hopefully maybe you'll be able to reach an agreement. So I will leave it at that. I will say thank you, everyone. Everyone put in a good case. And thank you for your patience with the Zoom trial. And with that, unless there's anything else, we'll stand in recess till I set the date for the closing arguments. Is there anything else anyone needs to add at this point? Okay.
Oh, Your Honor. Thank